Hi guys, it's Ray here from City Fan TV. Hope you're all well today. It's Sunday evening in the UK, about 10:15, and we need to talk about Manchester City. Obviously, I think the main thing that I'm thinking about is the hearing at CAS, the Court of Arbitration for Sport, that's taking place tomorrow. So that's meant to be the main talking points of the evening. Hi, Chris. Hope you're well, mate. And the other area, the other talking point, I think, a bit of transfer gossip. We'll talk about Angelino, and we'll talk about Lautaro Martinez. So little bits and pieces about those two guys as well. Stuff I've seen in the papers today. So let's start off by, who should we go with? Bit of transfer gossip. Just waiting to see if anybody else comes on board. Next minute or two. We'll talk about Angelino. He's one of our players. Now, RB Leipzig, that's where he was on loan since January. Didn't obviously stay that long initially. We had was it January, February, and a bit of March. And season started again. Anyway, let's have a look. Let's just big up. It's from Manchester Evening News. I got this. So now this is what the Manchester Evening News say. That Angelino is expected to return to City once his loan at RB Leipzig expires at the end of the season. Now, Angelino is actually classed as a homegrown player. He's not played here long, but he's been on our books and he's been out on loan, but he's been at City, so he classes as a non-homegrown player, which is quite important. It's part of your squad. We talked about that many times, but he went off to RB Leipzig, and when he came, when I saw him in pre-season in China, I think it was against West Ham, he got absolutely roasted, and he was like, no pace, no positional sense, or not enough. But I think he got into it once he got a few games in the season. But I just still thought he's going to struggle. Obviously he's got a lot of application. He needs to get up to speed in the Premier League. He's been playing in the Dutch league, which wasn't the same standard and not the same pressure. And so Angelino, I think we got him back for about 5 or 6 million quid. The numbers don't really matter massively. And I think the RB Leipzig deal was he goes on loan for 6 months, and then if they wanted him, the rumour was it was about 25 million euros quid. It doesn't make much difference now. So anyway, but so he's in and out of City. He didn't do much because he was third choice. You've got Zinchenko and Ben Mendy. But apparently, looking what he's done in the Bundesliga when he first went, he's done really well. He's done really, really well at RB Leipzig. He's played 12 times in all competitions, scoring once. So as I said, they had the option to buy him for about 25 million. But the manager, Julian Nagelsmann, says the fee is a little bit too high. He said, I believe we probably won't purchase Patrick Schick and Angelino. We cannot waste resources. Even if we do qualify for the Champions League, we have a rigorous plan and a budget that has to be respected. So the feeling is that either they're going to try and do a deal that's a lot less than 25 million, or they're not going to have him at all. I mean, maybe they go for another loan. A lot of it depends on what City do. I don't think Angelino's the future. Hi, Akash, and hi, Mark. As I said, I don't think Angelino's the future at left back. Does he get another season, as Chris is asking? I'm not sure. You got Mendy. Depends what happens with Mendy. If Mendy leaves, Zinchenko's, I think, is going to stay regardless. Let's say Mendy leaves, then Angelino's could be back up, but I think we'd look for another left back instead. Someone with a lot more experience, a bit more pace and a bit more skill, I think, because we don't want to be getting players this summer or whenever the transfer window opens who aren't going to be first team players. That's my opinion. Either immediate first team players or youngsters with immense talent and immense potential. So I'm not so sure. Would I take Chilwell? I'm not so sure. Chris Welch, to be honest. I mean, he's been absolutely embarrassed when he played against us, and he's, I think he flatters to deceive. In some of the big games, I don't think he turns up. And City every game at City is a big game. We have big games and bigger games, and you just got to turn up. There's talk about David Silva going off to Qatar, big money deal there in terms of wages. And finishes. I don't think he'd finish his career, but maybe a couple of years there. He's already 33 or 34, 33, I think. So he could go there and then go back to Spain or go to America. I don't know. He won't be here. Akash is nowhere. Mahrez destroyed him when we played. Absolutely, Ben Chilwell. I don't think he's quite good enough. Kex O'Neill, hope we are well prepared for tomorrow. Yep, we'll be talking about that in a minute. Talk about Lautaro Martinez. Okay, another story I picked up in the MEN. Now, according to the Argentina manager, Lionel Scaloni, he reckons that Sergio Aguero and Lautaro Martinez will make a great partnership. Look, Aguero's 32 last week. He's got 1 more year on his contract. Martinez is 22. They've only played together 5 times for the national team since 2018 when Martinez had his debut. Looking at the stats, the only 3 starts, the pair have combined for 1 goal across 263 minutes of game time. But Aguero wants to play for Argentina until at least the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. That's 2 more seasons. Maybe he'll be at City, maybe not. We don't know. We know he wants to finish his career Independiente, but he could do an extra year at City, and that's a possibility. Really depends on his body and how he does this, finishing this season and next season. So let's see. Speaking to Argentina broadcaster DirecTV about his attacking options, which include Lionel Messi, Angel Di Maria, and Mauro Icardi. Scaloni said, Icardi is still in our plans. He plays very well. He knows very well how things are. I spoke to him on the phone when he was in conflict with Inter. I explained to him that I wouldn't summon him because the other strikers were playing regularly with their respective clubs. Anyway, as for Aguero and Martinez, who would benefit from Icardi's absence from the squad, Scaloni said they get along very well. They'll make a great duo for Argentina. Okay, it's very straightforward, not a lot of words there. But tell me, let me know in the comment section below, would you like Lautaro Martinez at City? Would you like him for next season, partnering Aguero, maybe playing 2 up front? Let us know in the comment section below what you think, guys. And finally, we're going to move on to financial fair play. The UEFA hearing, not the UEFA hearing, the hearing at CAS, the Court of Arbitration for Sport, into City's 2-year ban from the Champions League. Now, I'm not going to go back into the old background of financial fair play. Talked about it many times. You can go check on this site for financial fair play. There'll be something there on this YouTube channel, on my channel. I'm not going to talk about the reasons really for it. I've talked about them extensively already. But just to say, that it starts on the 8th, which is tomorrow. It's due to last 3 days. To be honest, I've not been that interested. There's more important things going on in the world, in life at the moment, with obviously the problems with the coronavirus crisis, COVID-19, and obviously the Black Lives Matters movement, Black Lives Matter, that movement. So there's a lot of other things to fill your mind up. So I've not been focused on the CAS hearing now. Basically, and very basically, City had a problem with FFP many years ago. I think it was 2014. We had what's called a settlement agreement with UEFA, where we City and UEFA agreed on the terms of a penalty for. City said we never broke FFP, we never failed it. They said UEFA were. I can't remember exact terms, but they said that they weren't happy. Let's put it that way. And Khaldun Al-Mubarak, our chairman, said we'll take the pinch. They figured that paying the fine and doing what accepting the punishment that UEFA give out, that they could put it behind them and move forward. And they saw the future as not having any problems, and we've not had any issues with FFP since then, because we're in small, we're turning into a small profit now, and I think FFP should have been for us now long in the past. What UEFA have done, some leaks in the German newspaper. I think it's Bild, and that fella Pinto from Portugal, who apparently they said was a hacker, and he got emails and letters and stuff, and it's footy leaks and all that. You can go and check that stuff out as well. But from all that, I mean, UEFA re-looked at City's old settlement agreement and what that referred to, and they said they believe that City had lied to them, had deceived them or misled them, and that some of the sponsorships were overvalued. I don't think that's right, but and that the money was coming from the owner and not coming from the sponsors and stuff. So the issue is, so they had this very quick hearing at UEFA, and they banned City for 2 seasons from the Champions League. Now, obviously, City have appealed that, and this is why it's at the Court of Arbitration for Sport. Now, it's not a proper legal court, but it's the top appeals process within sport, and it covers lots of different sports. It's it's where you can go above your own associations or your own sporting body. You know, whether it's tennis, a lawn tennis association, you can go above them or above the IOC or whatever. That's the International Olympic Committee. And it's supposed to be an independent body sitting in Switzerland. And so the hearing's due for 3 days. And look, UEFA give City a ban of 2 years. Now, basically, there's going to be 3 possibilities, as I see it anyway. The ban is upheld, it's 2 years. The ban is down to 0, or it's going to be a 1-year ban. Halfway house. And that's where quite a few people think UEFA put this 2-year ban in, because if there's a technicality and UEFA made a mistake somewhere here or there, then, and it's only a technicality, it gives CAS some wiggle room to put it down to 1 year. I think in the past, when they've given clubs ban over 1 year, and there's no wiggle room, you see the 1 year or 0, and that's what CAS have to decide. And if there's sometimes you think, this is what you think, if there's an admin error here or there, CAS end up giving it down to 0. So some they uphold and some they won't. We have no idea. Anybody who says they have an idea, I don't believe you have an idea. If CAS are independent, then and no one's going to leak any information from CAS, then nobody has an idea. You can only have an idea. You know, you see some stuff in the papers, and it's coming from one or the other side. Usually, it's coming from the UEFA side, where they're leaking stuff out there, apparently, allegedly. And saying City have no case. City say, when City have talked about it, it's been open. It's not been, I don't think, through briefings and stuff and leaks. It's been, you know, we've got a lot of evidence, and we think we're going to win. So that's what's going to happen. So look, guys, I have no idea, you know, and as I said, nobody else really has any idea what's going on. It's CAS. It's up to them to decide. Honestly, I don't know. The hearing's scheduled for 8th, 9th and 10th. I don't know if the verdict will be delayed, whether it comes out on the 10th. You'd think it'd be delayed. I don't think it'd come out straight away. You know, they may have to sit on the evidence and study it. Just don't know. But obviously, if we get banned for a year or 2, it's going to affect City. It's going to affect transfers. It's going to affect income. And the way City are at the moment, I mean, losing £100 million of Champions League money, you know, in terms of gate receipts, sponsorships, TV money, however much it is. Losing that, let's say we lose 80 million, that's a huge chunk of money. On top of the money we're going to miss out on in gate receipts if we don't have any footy next season, City could be, and it's not exaggeration, 150 million quid out of pocket. That's a lot of money to be out of pocket. And they're going to have to find a lot of that money from somewhere. Otherwise, it affects transfers, it affects player wages, and it affects the day-to-day activity of the club. You know, if we're making a profit of, for argument's sake, 10 million quid right now, if we lose income of 100 million quid, where are we going to save that 100 million quid in the club? I really don't see it. Or we have to get some new income, and that's the only way to go forwards. So it is a big risk, and it's a big issue for City if that comes to pass, that we are banned from the Champions League for either 1 or 2 years. 2 years, I think, is obviously worse, because it's going to affect you for 2 years. It's going to affect potential future coefficients if UEFA mess about with the coefficients of the Champions League. There's rumours about that. And it affects players coming. Missing out for 1 season, players can still come. We've seen that happen at other clubs. But missing out for 2 seasons, you know you're out for 2 seasons. Some players will think about it. Will someone like Ismail Benacer, 22 years old, and he's got an option of 3 or 4 clubs potentially, and one of them City. If City are out of the Champions League for 2 years, he might think I'll go somewhere else. Husam, another 22-year-old, he might think something similar. I've got a choice going to Juventus, Champions League straight away, probably going to win the Italian league, or go to City, no Champions League, fighting with Liverpool for the title. So, and you might go for the easier option, a more stable option, and go there. So it is an issue. Let's go through comments, and then we'll wrap up for the day. Chris Welch, we've been linked with Martinez, but Klopp never going to change. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't see Martinez going to be behind the 3 you've already got. Class Act says about Martinez. Chris Welch not happy with UEFA and says PSG get away with it. Yeah, I think PSG do get away with it. Chris, where else do you reckon we win? Honestly, we don't know, mate. Honestly, we don't know. Kex O'Neill Ferguson is CAS judge probably. Don't know a Kex. Saints, not seen you for ages, but I hope you are very well. Matt Bell, plus attraction publicity will be difficult. That's I hadn't read your point, but that's one of the points I was making. Attracting to players. Akash, Pep will still attract players, but we've also got the issue where we don't know what's happening with Pep. We don't know if Pep's contract runs out at the end of next season, and whilst this is still one of the best places to be a manager, City with all the facilities and everything that the club have got behind them, missing out. People want to come for Pep and the Champions League, and if we're missing out on the Champions League, we don't know what's happening with Pep. Pep might not stay. He's not said he's going to stay. He's talked about staying and talks about basically it's the best place to be, and he's happy here and everything else. But it might just be his mother sadly passed away. I think back in March due to COVID-19. And he might just say, I'll see out my contract, and that's it. I'll take some time off and spend it with the family. KDB has talked about leaving. I'm not sure, Mark. I've not. I need to hear it from his mouth, really, and to get things in the proper context. Chin up. Whose chin's not up? Kex. Waiting for the season to kick back impatiently. Absolutely same. I can't hope for the best. Absolutely, we've got to hope for the best. And it's one of those things, we can't affect it. And if we get banned, if we get found guilty, not found guilty, if they uphold the ban, just take it on the chin. If City get banned, they've got a better chance of winning the league. And actually, they could go out and break the bank on FFP as long as they pass the Premier League's FFP, which is a lot less stringent than UEFA's. City could just say, let's go and splash out. If we ban for 2 years, let's splash out and sort it out afterwards. Because obviously, if you're banned, then UEFA can't look at your FFP numbers, and City could just say, that's how, I think that's one of the reasons Liverpool or some clubs have got away with it, because on one season they'd have been banned from Europe, but they weren't in Europe, and the following season they get through because they look back at all the years and whatever, without going into all that old stuff. But yeah, it's going to be a huge, whereas some of those fans are not, some fans are not that fussed whether we're in Europe or not, whether in the Champions League or not, because they've not really taken to it. The club obviously wants to win the trophy. That goes without saying, and it's finances, it's the money that's involved. When you're talking, if it's going to be £100 million to you, worth as much as that, that's a heck of a lot of money. You're talking about 20% of your income if you're turning over £500 million. And if you're losing your gate receipts from the Premier League, you're looking at missing out, as I said, on £150 million. That's 30% of your income. Where are you going to get that back from? Yeah, absolutely, Chris. There's nothing we can do. What would happen if City get banned for 2 years? I think they would go to court. What they'll look at and say, what have we got to lose? If it costs us £20 million to go to court and pay for the solicitors, so what? We're missing out on £100 million for 2 seasons. So we're missing out on £200 million. So I can see why City might say, I can see why definitely they'd say, let's go to court about this, simply because, even if it costs you as much as 20 million, is a lot of money. But if it costs you as much as 20 million, but you can gain 200 million potentially at the end of it, then I don't see why City wouldn't chase that. Only if it's one season, they might still say it's worth spending 20 million to try and get 80 to 100 million pounds back. Reputation, they won't like that reputational damage, however it's caused. So I think that's going to be a part of their thinking. How much money we're missing out on, what's the reputational damage and stuff like that. Very, very important. Well, I think that's about it. Still here, guys. Still here. I pressed the wrong button. I was just looking at another YouTube channel. Akash, I think will appeal at Swisscourt and everywhere else. Yeah, I think it goes wrong. Some people are saying they reckon if it's 1 year, we'll accept it. If it's 2 years, we'll appeal or we'll take it to the next level. Akash says, we will be allowed to play. Well, we'll see. And if we're banned, then we can't play. But it could be. It's what you're right. If we take it to another court, then would UEFA postpone our ban? Because the risk to UEFA is if they ban us, okay, if they uphold the ban and say we're not bothered about you going to court, and if they lose in court, and let's say it takes 6 months, if they lose in court, maybe the court says, UEFA, you owe Man City £100 million because that's what they could have got from being in the Champions League, and will reinstate them into this year's Champions League. That would cause an immense problem for UEFA. You can see court cases taking longer than 6 months. If it takes 2 or 3 years to go through the courts, then and UEFA lose, well, the court could just say, well, yeah, we'll pay, damages to City, £200 million. That's £100 million for each season, and 50 million for reputational damage or whatever. Okay, or for not being able to buy players. I don't know. It might just be straight. What money did you lose? Well, we would have been guaranteed this amount of money, 50 or 60 million at the minimum, and UEFA then are out of pocket by a lot of money. And if having problems obviously with the coronavirus, then it's going to affect UEFA competitions. And if everything's behind closed doors, UEFA are then just relying on sponsorship money and not gate receipts. Gate receipts are small fry really, but they'll end up losing in say Euro 2020, which is played in 2021, and there's no fans, so UEFA will end up losing whatever income they got on the gate. And that's usually a decent wedge. So it's going to be an issue. So they'll have to think, do we take that risk? Do we take that risk that we lose in court? We have to pay City £100 million a season or whatever it's going to be. And they'll look at that and they might say, well, realistically, we'd expect it to be about 50 million a season. But you've got to look at the worst case scenario, because that can happen and that can affect people's decisions. If the worst case scenario is that UEFA would have to pay Man City £200 million, they'd have to look at that, even though they might think it might only be 50 or 60 million pounds in total. If the worst case scenario is £200 million, then that will focus their minds, and then they have to pay for their own solicitor, lawyers and everything else, and maybe they have to pay for City's lawyers as well. That's so it could end up at about £220–250 million, whatever it could be. So they have to look at the worst case scenario, and if that's 200 to 250 million pounds out of pocket, they've got to see, can they survive that? Does that open the floodgates for other teams to challenge UEFA? Could that open the floodgates? Could that open the floodgates for a challenge on FFP itself? Now, can you imagine if it went to a Swiss court and they declared it illegal? Wow. If they declared it illegal, FFP, a restraint of trade or something, then City would go back and say, well, UEFA, you fined us last time, it cost us 20 million. And on top of that, you affected our squad for the Champions League and reputational damage. And everybody else who's been fined might look at that and say, we're going to sue you as well. Hi, Peter Kelly. Hope you're well, mate. If City win the case and the FFP is gone, not necessarily, and not fit for purpose with the elite clubs and be asked what about their finances. No, they won't. I hope, Jason, hope you well, mate. I hope they do too. This is the thing. This is the risk UEFA will have of going to court if City take it somewhere else, because it's not only City could turn around and say we want 250 million quid because we've been out of the Champions League for 2 seasons. We want the money back from last time for the reputational damage. We want for you affecting our opportunities to play in the competition. They might even say for making us do this FFP paperwork as well. But you'll get other clubs will say, well, you fined us for something for FFP breaches, and if it's declared illegal, you could see, honestly, it might sound ridiculous. You could see UEFA being other clubs attacking UEFA, and UEFA could be £300-400 million out of pockets. That's a heck of a lot of money for all the clubs that have been fined or banned. They'll just turn around. If City go to another court, win there, and FFP, it might be they'll challenge FFP on its, they might challenge FFP in terms of this case, or they might challenge FFP in totality. And if they lose, if UEFA lose, and Trabzonspor got banned this for next season. 1 or 2 of the Italian clubs have, other Turkish clubs have. What if they turn around and say, well, you cost us 30 million quid? 5 or 6 clubs turn around and do that. If FFP is deemed illegal, they turn around and say, we want 30-40 million quid. 5 clubs, that's 200 million. Add cities, you're up to 400, maybe 500-600 million pounds. That's an absolutely crazy amount of money in these difficult times for UEFA to have to cough up in maybe a couple of years' time. It's going to be incredibly difficult for them. Final point, Chris Welch, Newcastle would take her out to be careful. Well, the thing is, Chris, as I understand it, they've got 4 years because they're getting new owners. If that happens, they'll have 4 years in which to comply or show that they're heading in the right direction. So, as I said before, I believe, from as I understand it, they can have a massive lot of influx in the first or even second season. And as so long as they're showing they're going to break even, and maybe that's the way they do it, they say, look, we're going to spend a shed load in the first season, a bit less in the second, and the idea is that we will try to be balancing our books by the 4th season. The way you're going to balance your books simply is by increasing your income. Now, Newcastle, if you think about it, the Puma sponsorship, is it Puma sponsoring them? It's not a lot of money. It's 7 million quid. I don't know. It's less than 10 million. What if Newcastle suddenly get a sponsorship deal into the Sports Direct or whoever they got on the shirt now? I can't remember. It's a betting company or whatever. What if they get a sponsorship deal in 3 years' time for 40 million a season because they've, their names out there a bit more? What if they get a kit manufacturer's deal for 30 million? So they're getting 60, 70 million, let's say, every season, more than they're getting now. Once you start, if you're improving in the league, you get, let's say they get an extra 20 million from TV broadcast deal and prize money, whatever. So suddenly Newcastle are in that region of 80 million more, and then they get other sponsorships. Straight away, you're on 100 million, 120 million more each season. Maybe they can put some hospitality prices up and stuff. So you could end up Newcastle getting 100 to 120 million extra in every year. That allows you to spend 200 or 300 million pounds on players. If you understand your football finances, and I've talked about that many times. Last couple of points. Peter Kelly strong. As when Newcastle gets taken over, they are in the same boat as we are in 08. They have to spend fortunes to get into Europe like we did, and then they'll be caught. No, they won't. As I said, I just try to explain that, Peter, is that you've got that 4-year period, which they put in this in place for the Italian clubs when they got to I think AC Milan got taken over and someone else did as well. And they put this in place because they were not happy that their new owners couldn't invest. So they put this thing in so you can invest. And it's FFP still there, but they relax some of FFP, I believe, for new owners. They will need to increase the capacity of their stadium. I'm not sure how much that's possible. Jason, because I talked to someone on the Supporters Trust, and I'm not sure how much that's possible. But they might just say, well, we'll charge it. It doesn't make that much difference if you charge an extra 50 quid on the season card. What you're going to get an extra 2 or 3 million a season. It's not a lot. Last point. What am I going to Tour de France? I haven't finished, Chris. I've got lost. I've not even kept. I don't know how many kilometers I've done. I've still got best. I must have over 2,000. I'm going to try and do it tomorrow, but I've not been well this last week. Not been sleeping very well at all, and I get up in the mornings and I just can't do it. It's not a motivational thing. It's just a health thing as well, and not feeling on top of the world. But I'm going to try and get back into it tomorrow. Guys, thank you ever so much for coming on board. If you're new to the channel, it'd be fantastic if you could hit that bell icon so you're notified as soon as new videos come out. See you around, Blues. Take it easy. Look after yourselves. Enjoy your week.